has only become stronger in the face of Indian atrocities. Through their supreme sacrifices, Kashmiris have made it crystal clear that Jammu and Kashmir is not the so-called integral part of India. It never was, it never will be. Ladies and gentlemen, today the world is witnessing rise of ultra-nationalism, racism, fascism, religious hatred and intolerance in India in the garb of Hindutva supremacist ideology championed by the RSS-inspired BJP government, which has been using violence to achieve its illegitimate objectives. The Hindutva ideology is not only a threat to the Kashmiris, but to India's own nationals as well, particularly Muslims. Targeted attacks and discriminatory measures against Muslims are rampant in the BJP's India, ranging from policies of systematically disenfranchising Muslims to physical assaults and other anti-Muslim actions under the bogey of love jihad and corona jihad, designed to demonize, dispossess and further marginalize the Muslims. Ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan continues to expose the horrific atrocities perpetrated by Indian occupation forces. The Jammu and Kashmir dispute has become the headline news. I cannot think of a time when the issue of Jammu and Kashmir was internationalized on this scale before. Several credible reports from human rights organizations and media outlets have already censured India on its ongoing military siege, clampdown on communications, media blackout, and the use of other measures to perpetuate its illegal occupation. On the diplomatic front, India is facing humiliation after humiliation internationally following its illegal and unilateral actions in Jammu and Kashmir. Since August 5, 2019, 3 meetings of the UN Security Council have been held to deliberate on the Jammu and Kashmir dispute, which is a categorical rebuttal of India's fictitious claim of the dispute being an internal matter. In addition, a number of parliaments, including the European Union, UK and the US Congress, have reviewed the situation in the illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir on different occasions. In a recently held debate at the British Parliament on the political situation in Jammu and Kashmir, the British parliamentarians have called out the BJP government for its ongoing brutal and systematic violence against innocent Kashmiris. The increasing international denunciation of India's brutal campaign is indeed a step in the right direction. However, there is still a lot to be done that will help pave the way for early resolution of the Jammu and Kashmir dispute, which is a prerequisite for durable peace and stability in South Asia. Ladies and gentlemen, the unflinching belief of the Kashmiri people in their just struggle for freedom from Indian occupation fills our hearts with great pride. Their resilience in the face of unspeakable atrocities being perpetuated by Indian occupation forces is remarkable. On its part, Pakistan's ultimate objective remains the resolution of the Jammu and Kashmir dispute as per the wishes of the Kashmiri people and relevant resolutions of the UN Security Council through a free and impartial plebiscite under the UN auspices. The people and government of Pakistan remain committed to extend full support to the just cause of Kashmiris' right to self-determination. We will not let anyone take away Kashmir from Kashmiris. This cause and the struggle is just, sacred, and non-negotiable. The Kashmiri spirit will ultimately triumph, inshallah. I thank you. I just want to add to this, we keep talking about Kashmir and we keep addressing international at different forums. But in my view, I think our strategy should somewhat change. It should be more focused on human rights organizations, because many democracies claim that they are torchbearers of human rights, and the new Biden administration is, talking of human rights. We need to engage more actively with parliaments, with think tanks and people. Until we can build pressure of public opinion, governments, because of political expediency and realpolitik, perhaps knowing what's going on, fully aware of what the Indians are up to in the occupied territory, will keep looking the other way. It's a tall order in the environment that we are working in. Nonetheless, it's a just cause. We believe in it, and the Kashmiris are looking up to Pakistan in particular to stand with them. And I'm confident that despite different views on different issues within Pakistan, despite the political polarization in the country, on this issue, the nation is one and should remain one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Saab. Thank you to IRS. I apologize, I misunderstood the time, so I hope I am not late. I'll be very, very brief and just lay out for you. The foreign minister has spoken, and I apologize. I didn't realize that you were starting earlier than I thought. But let me just begin by saying that all of us should remember the 5th of February for one reason and one reason alone. We call it the Solidarity Day, but really it is saluting the resistance of the Kashmiris. And every time we talk about Kashmir and the world talks about Kashmir, somehow real estate comes to mind. The first and foremost part of this dispute is human lives. We shouldn't forget that. There are Kashmiris who every day are suffering under India's illegal occupation. Yesterday I was doing an interview, and the interviewer asked me, so why isn't Pakistan hurrying up the process of getting to a settlement? And my answer really was that this is the most depressing part of my job, or anybody who's working as a Pakistani official trying to resolve this dispute in light of the UN Security Council resolutions. Because every single day you wake up, you come to office, and you get information on what has happened in IIO-JK in the past 24 hours. And that is enough to make you sob for the rest of the day if you have any heart beating inside you. So I just want to start by reiterating that this is foremost an issue of human lives. A human tragedy that has lasted 73 years and continuing, unfortunately. When you talk about Kashmir, the first thing to keep in mind is what is today's Pakistan. I think this is where we start going wrong when we talk about Pakistan and we then talk about India and then we talk about what India is doing. But the first thing, and I'm not sure whether the foreign minister talked about this, but Pakistan and the vision of the Prime Minister is decidedly, and in February 2019, happen in Kashmir, months before August 5th. There's also talk about our news channel being the only one who was present I'm talking to you about Pakistan, economic security and peace, and here is an India that is moving in the direction that all of us know and talk about every day. Let me also say that there's always a conversation, oh, but what is the government doing? You know, this is the difference between responsibility and rogue behavior. We've got a country on the other side that is seemingly making short-term gains, including tragically in IIOJK when it says, I've done unilateral things to change the character, totally in contravention of the Forced Geneva Convention and many other international conventions. On the other hand, you have a responsible state that is constantly talking about diplomatic and legal channels and nothing else. Now, this is a difficult path. This is a path to incremental success, not overnight victory. But that's the path a responsible state must take, because remember, I started by saying it is about human lives first and foremost. You know, a lot of people here talk about, and I've often been told, well, India is on the path to self-destruction. Just sit and watch. At one level, as a Pakistani official, yes. But at another level, please remember, every day that passes with the barbaric and draconian attitude of the Indian state, Kashmiris are suffering. So we will keep pushing as hard as we can. The three words that the Foreign Minister and I have sort of been using again and again. Our approach to the world is unapologetic, no matter what. This is not going to be like the past where we are worried about what the other side will say if we speak the truth. The evidence is in the dossier that we put out, and we will continue to do these kind of things to call India out. Didn't used to happen before. We have to be proactive. There is no time in this fluid world to be reactive and wait for what comes from the other side. But we also have to be totally pragmatic. We can't be emotive, because our enemy wants us to be emotive, make mistakes, and cash in on that. We've already seen the kind of tentacles the enemy has. EU Disinfo Lab, I think unearths and exposes every single part of it, even though that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's what we're dealing with. So we must have patience, but the goal is clear, the direction is clear, and that is the right to self-determination of the Kashmiris, enshrined in international law, not by Pakistan, by the UN, whose responsibility it is to make this happen. Let me also say a couple of other things before I close. One, why isn't the world responding the way we want the world to respond? So the first thing is, yes, the world is not responding. I am at least not one of those who will say, no, everything is... No, we are not getting the response any just world would give to the kind of draconian measures and barbaric policies that India has followed in IIOJK. We all know mercantilist interests, we all know India counterweight to China, etc. But I do want to point to you that never has India been censured the way it has been in the Western press and media, by US congressmen and women, by UK parliamentarians, by human rights organizations, like it has in the past year and a half. We do a very comprehensive analysis of these things very scientifically. There's some people in the room who sort of work with us on that. And we can even show you numbers in terms of how the narrative on India has changed in the West. So it is not that the world is completely blind to what is happening. The challenge is to move this realization to an action which is doing the right thing against India, to push it, to change what it's doing in IIOJK, and then more importantly for us, move to a real resolution of the dispute. But things are changing. They're much slower than we want. But with our unapologetic, proactive and pragmatic attitude, we will continue to hammer this to push it as much as possible. Last point I want to make. Despite everything we know India is doing, Pakistan's vision is peace. That is the conversation we continue to have. It's the one-step and two-step formula. And we still stand for peace. Despite everything else, there is a way forward. There has to be a way forward. But the enabling environment for that conversation has to be created by the country that has taken that enabling environment away. And that's India. And that's where we ask the world to come in and compel India to do what is required to move this equation forward. It is not that we are pleading the world to come and support us in something. We're just asking the world to do what it has already guaranteed it must do, which is push India to a real, sincere dialogue to resolve Kashmir in light of the UNSC resolutions. Once again, let me just end by stressing, think about the Kashmiri lives. That's who we stand with. The territorial dispute, of course, is there, but first and foremost, we must not rest till we get the Kashmiris the justice and the right to self-determination they've been promised. Thank you very much.